My fellow Alabamians, we are using this means today to provide an important update to the people of Alabama. First, I want to reinforce the precautions that we're all taking by practicing social distancing. Now, that's a term that many of us didn't even know it existed until a few days ago. Yesterday, Dr. Scott Harris, head of our public health department, issued updated guidelines in support of Alabama's effort to flatten the curve of the coronavirus pandemic. I cannot stress how important these recommendations are. Avoid large gatherings, even family and friends. And if you can, please stay home. It's very encouraging to see so many of our citizens already practicing social distancing. Choosing to be safe rather than sorry is always a smart move. This too shall pass, folks. It truly will pass, but it will only pass by following the doctor's advice, by using a little common sense, and by having some patience. Dealing with this public health crisis has had ripple effects throughout every aspect of our daily lives. Your state government is working to keep our people's employees safe while keeping a continuity of government open and available to our citizens. One aspect of how this pandemic is affecting Alabama is the potential to affect the outcome of the March 31st primary runoff election. I have asked Secretary of State John Merrill and Attorney General Steve Marshall to join me as it relates to the need to move the election date. During this pandemic, we have been advised to limit public gatherings of groups to fewer than 25, and the President is even lowering that number to 10. Doing this means we would be taking a human health risk just by having people stand in line waiting to vote. I'm also aware that our faithful poll workers are often retired, and many are among those who have the highest risk of this disease. Now, y'all, this is not a decision I came to lightly, but with consultation of the Secretary of State and the Attorney General of Alabama, I am announcing that through executive authority given to me through the state of emergency declaration, that Alabama's primary runoff election will now be held July 14, 2020. And I would ask Attorney General Marshall to speak to the authority granted to the governor to make this decision, and then ask Secretary Merrill to explain the timetable, as well as to encourage all Alabamians to take advantage on how to vote absentee. And I sincerely appreciate the cooperation and the help that these two leaders have provided. General Marshall, please come forward.
Thank you, Governor Ivey. As we affirmed in the opinion that we published yesterday, during a state of emergency, the governor has the authority to reschedule and set a new date for the election. That decision, as she's just announced, is not only appropriate, but it is clearly in the best interest of the public health and safety of all Alabamians. I think it is the interest of all three of us standing here today to ensure that no Alabamian, especially our elderly population, has to make the choice between their constitutional right to vote and their own personal health and safety. The governor's decision today ensures that Alabamans can participate in this election fully and have the opportunity to do so safely.
Secretary Merrill.
Thank you, Governor. This is not a day any of us looked forward to. It is a day that is necessary. It's a day that became necessary as the spread of COVID-19 continued to come across our borders and infiltrate each one of our 67 counties. I think it's important to note that the plans that we've had for the administration of the election on March 31st have continued as you would have expected us to do. One of the things that was incumbent on me when the governor declared the state of emergency last week was to reevaluate where we were and to determine what steps needed to be taken. The first step was to ensure that the health, safety, and concerns of all individuals that are under our purview, especially those people involved directly in the elections process, the probate judges, circuit clerks, the sheriffs, the board of registrars, and all the poll workers, would understand that we want their health and safety to be understood. They have a paramount concern to us. So it was incumbent on us to ask General Marshall to have his team evaluate the merits of the question as to whether or not the governor would be able to suspend or postpone the election. Of course, he granted that request after a great deal of work by his team from 31-9-1 to indicate that the governor could indeed suspend. The governor has rescheduled the election for July the 14th. It should be noted that our intentions are to proceed with the election as promised through July 14th. There are some deadlines that will change. Those will be introduced as soon as this press conference is over through an administrative calendar that will be provided to each probate judge, each circuit clerk, each sheriff, as well as the registrars and other people of note. It should also be noted that because of those deadlines being changed, that there are some questions that will probably need to be answered. First and foremost, those absentee ballot applications that have already been provided, that have been received and have been fulfilled, will be mailed out with a ballot beginning today to all voters that would like to have an absentee ballot. Those ballots can be returned, and when they are returned, they will be processed according to statute when they're supposed to be on the 14th of July 2020. I think that it's important to note that anybody that would like to make an absentee ballot application is able to do so. We would affirm Section 17-11-3 that the appropriate box for an individual to check would be the one that would be able to say, I'm concerned that I may have an illness or an infirmity. And it should also be noted that because of the law that was passed last year, each and every individual should include a copy of their valid photo ID when they submit their absentee ballot application in order for it to be properly processed according to state statute. I also think it's important to note that this is not the first time that we have thought about this. As a matter of fact, in 2019, we had legislation that we introduced that was not successful. We've reintroduced this year. State Senator Donnie Chasteen from Geneva County and State Representative David Standridge from Blount County have introduced legislation that will codify the governor's power in the emergency area of suspending or postponing an election when that's necessary.